A Day in the Life of Bob and Sarah by Kendrick Baker, Lawrence Stowers, and Michaela Stewart. Bob and Sarah have been carpooling to work together ever since Bob became Sarah's mentor there. Bob has been a conscientious and emotionally stable rock in Sarah's life ever since meeting Sarah during the substantive selection interview. Sarah has always been a very agreeable and extroverted person, showing high task performance in every project she's been assigned ever since her contingent selection. Flash forward. Bob picked Sarah up in his 2006 baby blue sparkly Prius, showing economic and environmental awareness, yet a sleek, rustic sense of masculinity. On the way to work, Sarah and Bob discussed the Myers-Briggs type personality test that they took last week.
What were your results?
I got E, S, F, and J, meaning I'm outgoing, like to have a routine, rely on my values, and prefer order and structure. What'd you get?
I got I, N, T, and P, meaning I'm a little quieter, look at the big picture, rely on logic for problem solving, but I can still be spontaneous.
I can't believe George wasted our time with such a dumb test. It doesn't even show anything about my job performance. If he wants us to be productive, he should just leave us alone to get our work done.
I agree, but I would hope he'd use the results to help build more balanced and productive teams, because I know he has been getting a lot of pressure from his boss.
Bob and Sarah arrive at work. As they get on the elevator, their boss, George, pushes his way in. Don't forget about the emergency floor meeting. I've got a lot to discuss with everyone.
We got it.
The remainder of the elevator ride is filled with awkward silence as Bob and Sarah examine the remnants of what seems to be last night's dinner on George's shirt. Arriving at their floor, Bob and Sarah slip past George.
Great, another meeting to waste my time on pointless discussions. George is the worst boss I've ever seen. He takes advantage of any formal power he's given, exercises political behavior to keep his job. I mean, his dad basically owns the company, and he doesn't even do his own work. Poor Robert always has to make up for his slack.
2 hours and 3 meals later for George, in the floor meeting. Morning. Some of you may be wondering why we took the Myers-Briggs type personality test last week. My boss strongly believes that we can improve productivity if we reorganize the project groups. Bob and Sarah will be our new project leaders for the upcoming quarter. On the bulletin board, you'll find your assigned groups. Does anyone have any questions for me? Following the meeting, George slips into his office and closes the door without a word. Bob and Sarah are left to gather their groups and organize them to facilitate project planning and group introductions.
Bob works under the behavior theory of leadership, believing that his training in leadership makes him a good leader. When working with the group, he follows a path-goal approach, providing his employees with information, support, and resources to get the job done. He is a laissez-faire transactional leader, preferring to trust in his group, coming to him for advice. Bob prefers to meet face-to-face with his team members, ensuring that each member is informed and aware of their role in the project that they are working on. Since these projects are long and complicated, at the beginning he encourages the team to break down the project to be more manageable and avoid information overload. Outside of these meetings, Bob has an open-door policy to answer any questions and checks his emails regularly to keep the channels open at all times. Bob is very expressive, and the team members can easily read his body and facial expressions to gauge his approval.
Sarah is much younger than Bob and is more inclined to the trait theory of leadership. She has a personality that lends itself to a full-range leadership style, combining transactional and transformational leadership. She is very hands-on and provides an idealized influence to her team, providing vision and a sense of mission amongst her team. As Sarah is a younger professional, she prefers to stick with contacting her team members via email, telephone conversations, and text when she is not working beside her team.
Bob has lots of expert power in his position as a senior member of the company, but Sarah is well liked by her peers and performs well at her position, earning reverent power in the workplace. Both approaches to power in the workplace are positively related to employee satisfaction with supervision, their organizational commitment, and performance. This contrasts with George's legitimate and coercive power, which often backfires on him by producing negative attitudes and a lack of respect and productivity from his employees.
After the team meetings dismissed, Bob and Sarah met up to have lunch and update each other on the progress of their teams.
So, Sarah, what do you think of your team? You really seem to be advancing up in the company.
My team is a good, hardworking team. We were able to pass through the storming stage very quickly and got lots of initial problems figured out. Hopefully, in the coming weeks, we can become more attuned to each other and advance toward performing better. How is your team?
My team's pretty good. We have a strong sense of role perception and expectations that allowed us to start working together and become productive very quickly. We blew through forming, storming, and the norming stages, and I see us performing very well together. Don't you think it was strange that George wasn't involved at all with the new teams during the meetings?
No, I'm not surprised at all. George exhibits a lot of deviant workplace behavior. He is often wasting resources and showing favoritism towards certain people in the office, and exhibits actions that are borderline sexual harassment to many of the female members of the workplace.
Well, that's probably due to his high ranking in the dark triad traits.
I never thought about it that way.
He exhibits Machiavellism with his blatant aggressive tactics and improving his own status in the company. His narcissism is recognizable through his political actions to get ahead, and his pride in his accomplishments.
He also reminds me of a psychopath with his lack of concern for others and when he doesn't show any guilt for his negligent actions.
After lunch, Bob and Sarah are going back to work when they see multiple agents in black suits stopping people as they walk in to tell them what's going on. As they approach the building, one of the agents approaches them.
What's going on?
We're here with the FBI investigating fraudulent activity within the company. Do either of you know George McIntosh?
Yes, he is our boss, actually.
Do you know of his whereabouts?
Well, before we left for lunch, he was in his office. But that was about an hour ago. Is he missing?
We're closing the building due to the ongoing investigation. Have a great day.
Confused, Bob and Sarah get back into Bob's 2006 baby blue sparkly Prius, showing economic and environmental awareness, yet a sleek sense of masculinity, and begin driving to Sarah's empty apartment with the promise of a bottle of wine and bonbons. A bottle later, Sarah and Bob are watching the news when they see a segment released by the FBI on the case against George.
Today we arrested George McIntosh for embezzlement of $1.2 million, in addition to the sponsorship of several corporate ethics violations. While attempting to flee, George was apprehended in his uptown apartment. George's department will be under investigation in the coming weeks for further evidence pertaining to this case.
Well, I can't say that I'm surprised. He always came across as an unethical person to me. I guess it's time to go back to initial selection for a new job. The end.